I like to talk about what other streamers are saying because I feel like streamers are. I think they're very, very important in today's culture as far as, people hanging out with people online, the messaging that's portrayed. And obviously we talked about Asmongold, several times on the channel. We talked about him, things that he says, controversies he's in and stuff. Because a lot of people really just don't like the guy. And I think if you watch any of his stuff, which I have watched, I'm not going to say like a full stream, but I like to know who I'm talking about when it comes to this. There was a clip that got passed around, Arch, from this person says, Asmongold hit the nail on the head once again. GamerGate showed many young men how much the system hated them. And Trump's win can be directly attributed to GamerGate. Without GamerGate, there was no viral skeptic or anti-SJW movement. You shouldn't have touched my games. Have you seen this clip, Arch?
I don't know if I've seen the clip specifically, no.
Okay, let's check this out.
I think that the gamer ripple effect from, let's say, GamerGate actually did have a second or third or fourth order effect that ended up getting Donald Trump elected. I do. I think that it radicalized a lot of young guys and they were fucking annoyed by it. Absolutely. And now I'm not going to say, but it did, because it got them out of their cave. It got them out of the grandma's basement, and they went down to the voting booth and they voted against whoever the fuck is going to make their main new character a girl. You want to make it wow, you're going to cover up her cleavage? Okay, well, I'm going to cover up your chances to be an elected representative. Absolutely, that's what happened. Now, I'm not saying it was a big effect, but I'm saying it happened, and I'm saying it mattered. That's it.
Arch, your thoughts on that?
I mean, it's true. And we've known this for a while. In fact, there's a lovely quote for this from 30 years ago now, I think, by a man called Alexander Solzhenitsyn. Solzhenitsyn, something Russian, which goes something along the lines of, the most terrifying force of death comes from the hands of men who want to be left alone. They try so very hard to mind their own business, but sometimes they are simply not allowed to. And this is what we saw here, as all of us were very happy simply playing our video games and doing whatever the hell we wanted. And then the ethics in games journalism question popped up when a woman was banging the man reviewing her video game and went, hold on, that's not right. And then they started attacking us, and we were very much so shocked. Like, what? What's going on now? And then we started looking into it and realizing this is a much bigger thing. There are conspiracies going on here. All of these people are stemming from the same hymn sheet. All of these people have been educated in the same institutions. The professors are all stemming the same hymn sheet. Then you begin digging and digging and digging, and eventually you realize that this is actually a significantly sized political movement. And 20 years later, once it has gone fully mask off, as it was forced to do a little bit early due to the major attention that was spun around it, well, a lot of people have woken up and have simply started resorting to voting for whomever they see as capable of effecting some change to the system. And that is not the established political class. That's Donald Trump.
How many times have you heard that exact story? The exact story where I just wanted to be left alone. Just leave me alone. And then people kept pushing and pushing and pushing to where it became so annoying that, yes, ultimately action had to happen. I know I've seen, I don't know, a dozen videos this past week of people saying that exact same thing of, look, I was just a normie. I didn't have a whole lot going. I didn't really care about politics at all until you forced me to pay attention to it. Blabs, have you seen that?
Like where everyone just wants to be left alone, of course.
Right.
I am one of them.
Right.
Hello.
I think this is I think it really nails it here. And I don't think it was a massive impact, but it was enough. It was enough of an impact to get millions of people off their, and to make a decision, and at least millions of people to get up and say something about it, or do something about it. I mean, I'd be very curious to see how many people growing up who are just like that, who didn't care about things and then felt like they had to do something about it because their hand was forced, or voted for the first time because you touched my passion, you touched my hobby, you touched my games, because they touched my game. They touched my game, so now I have to go out and do something about it, right? I think that's totally fair. I don't know what type of impact do you guys think that actually made? Do you think it was a Trump won the election pretty handedly, I would say, between in all three measurables in the United States. You wonder if it was gamers whether it was 1%, let's just say it was 1%, and 1% of, I mean, that's a pretty huge number. That's 9 million people in the United States, or whatever it is. That's a ton of people. But let's just say it was 0.5%. Do you think like 5 million people were that pissed off that they voted the other way, or voted for the first time, based off of all this stuff that happened in Gamergate and the trickle-down effect from it?
I think this is being a little bit reductivist again, because Asmongold is very new to this. He is the normie who has come in at the end of this thing. This entire project started 10 years plus ago.
Right.
I started talking about this on my old Warhammer lore channel specifically because I saw this happening in Warhammer, and I was like, okay, I'm going to get out ahead of this long before it actually gets starting. But this created a whole slew of content creators and influential people on YouTube, largely, that started talking about this and educating people about it. I mean, I would never have bothered learning about Antonio Gramsci, for example, if it wasn't necessary. Nor would the majority of people. I don't think most people wanted to hear about dead communist scholars or philosophers. But it became necessary because we were being affected by that form of politics that was out explicitly to reduce Western society and destroy its values and its societal structure. And you don't want to think about that. Like when we were watching Star Wars and Star Trek and playing Warhammer, nobody bothered thinking about that. It was silly. But that, of course, then builds up year after year after year. And it's not just so simple as gamers did this. It's we talk to the majority. Everyone then becomes more accustomed to, okay, there is something greater. That isn't just the usual political paradox of Republican versus Democrat. The left has, in fact, radicalized quite a lot. No, it's not just a pride parade and so on. All of this has a trickle-down effect, again, from creating people who started to make content illuminating all of this. So, yeah, saying it's gamers is correct, but also, it's a very small point of view and a very large movement.
I've talked about how when the original Gamergate was happening, I had my head down. Like I was too busy making content and videos, running a business. And I was working in the gaming space. I had Screw Attack at the time. This was a decade ago, 2014, when the first time it rolled around. And I heard about it on the periphery. And, I heard what most people, it was this thing that was bad, and but like the more I learned about it, especially since side scrollers started back up, 3 years ago now, or 2 years ago now, it was really like, as I learned about it, it was like, holy shit, the narrative that has been spun by traditional mainstream media, it's all just a fucking lie. And then to see a year ago when all this stuff happened with Gamergate 2, and going back to the journalism aspect and seeing them openly omit facts in articles. I go back to the Kotaku article with Mercante, where she just totally omitted the idea of why Cabrutus was making his group with the DEI detected, and why and that she left out the fact that the Sweet Baby Inc. employee was harassing him. Like the idea that those things would just be omitted to spin a narrative was like shameful to me, and is shameful to me. And yeah, I'd say that is very much, I was already on my way to being red pilled, but just, that red pill moment of like, man, this is really fucked up. It's pretty amazing to see. But I do think that there was definitely a dramatic effect that happened from this. And I think Asmongold is right. Whether it was enough to swing an election, I do think it started 10 years ago, 11 years ago with the original Gamergate. And that one girl, you know, was it Zoe Quinn sleeping with 5 guys, and the trickle down effect from that. Like, what a weird timeline we live in, where this psycho lady sleeping with 5 dudes had a trickle down effect to Donald Trump being elected. Like, wow, it is insane to think about. And a lot of people are pointing out, Mercenary says, I disagree with Asmongold. The problem is that those powers that be saw those who wanted to be left alone as an actual threat to their delusion. They saw the potential and wanted this to snuff it out. And Cord, go ahead, Arch.
Somewhat, yes, but they fell for the great flaw of every political movement that gains authority and power, in that they think that they are the only ones to wield it, and therefore they will see an opposition and go, well, you're just dum-dums, we'll just crush you. And when you don't actually have truth or the argument on your side, you will just make yourself out to be a fool. The conservatives have done this, the progressives have obviously done this. This is hubris of the party that is in power. Like when in the 1980s, the Republicans created like a 500, 800 page report on how pornography was damaging. So they're like, okay, this will be a great electoral promise. We can wipe out pornography. And then after paying like $7,000 per page to produce this thing, they were sat there like, I can't actually find any evidence to support our position. So we've just made ourselves look like idiots in public now.
Corrigan came in and says you can go all the way back to 2015 with Sargon of Akkad when Gamergate started. He got into politics/culture war because of intersectional feminism, and as a result, that red pilled me. I was normie as fuck, right? Yep. Yeah, and I would love to have Sargon on the channel one day, just to kind of talk about his journey through all this stuff. I mean, he's obviously seen a lot of success with his own YouTube channel, and learning about him and learning about kind of what he's done over the years. It's been interesting. Marmalin says 2012/2013, they attacked Wizard Shan with the 5 guys, Zoe being the primary cry wolf victim, people who wanted to be left alone. And then V got involved, which friends and I became more political. Thank you, Marmalin. Yeah, right. Nathan says, the bigger reason I became more vocal and political was because they started shoving their politics into my games. I've red-pilled a lot of people because I channeled that autism from games to politics.
And there's one of the important things as well, the ability to actually recognize what the politics is. I don't think I have the original link anymore, but I can show you this one. This is from my Twitter, where Stone Toss has a very rare L, where he basically tries to conflate the idea of wokeism in video games with, like, Half-Life, for example, with Alex Vance in there, right? Alex Vance? Was that her name? Alex? And the thing is, it's not that. Like, woke isn't when black people. Woke is a political ideology with a very specific goal in mind to ruin Western society. And it's very important that we remember that and retain that knowledge and not be reductivist about it. Because again, the moment you fail to be able to accurately identify your opponent is when you give them back the advantage again. And that is why we were able to do all of this, because we did educate ourselves. We were able to identify what we were actually up against. And so we were able to look into games and go, no, this is actually woke. This is actually a political agenda. I can recognize it as such, and I don't like it.
Corrigan says, seeing real-world politics being injected into games and media during the 2015-16 era led me to become more educated about politics, as it was affecting my hobbies. I abandoned Magic the Gathering after Dark Aragorn. And I think that's the most important thing. We talk about that all the time. Vote with your wallets. And people have done that. And going back to the game we just talked about with Dragon Age Veilguard, right? All the things that came out about that. People voted with their wallets. And now 3 months later, they're giving it away. They're giving the game away in hopes of developing an audience for it. That tells you everything you need to know about it. It's nuts. YouTube says we should add these videos at the end telling you to subscribe so